All right, welcome back. This is episode 3. I keep wanting to say 4. It's not week 4 yet. Episode 3. It's been quite a week, quite a weekend. I'm actually recording this Monday night. It's almost 10 o'clock. It's just been crazy, so bear with me. um, but I'm really excited about today's topic. We're going to talk about identity. There's a serious identity crisis okay, I've been told I talk too slow, so I'm going to try to talk faster. There's a serious identity crisis in our culture and in our generation. And I think that the answer is Jesus. And so in this episode, I'm going to first break down your whole identity. I'm going to break down everything that you are and strip you of your entire identity. So that'll be fun. And then for the second part of this video, which will be the bulk of this video, I'm going to build up your new identity. And we're going to talk about why the new identity is the correct one and why it is one that won't fail and cannot be stripped down, like I'm going to do. So it's going to be super fun. So bear with me through the beginning because it's not going to feel very good. It's going to be kind of scary, but it's okay. You can do this, I promise. Okay, here we go. So, first of all, what is the problem? What is this identity crisis that we have in our culture, in our generation? And basically, the crisis is we're finding anything and everything that we could possibly put our identity into. It's who we are, whether it's your job title or your political party, how you vote. Maybe you're putting your identity in being a good friend. Maybe that is your identities. You are a good friend. Or maybe it's being a mother or a father or a son, daughter, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew. I mean, you can infer the rest. A good family member. Maybe it is, I think a lot of us, a culture tells us a lot to put our identity in our sexual orientation, gay, straight, trans, all the things. It comes with a whole alphabet soup. Maybe you put it in what you like. You're a person that likes this, or a person that likes to read, or a person that likes to watch movies, or any of the things. Like, you can pick any of those things and make that your whole identity. And I think we do that because without that, we run around like chickens with our heads cut off, screaming, I don't know who I am. Who am I? I can't go on with life until I figure out who I am. But the problem is, all of those things change. They don't stay the same. Say, if you're putting your identity in your job description, what happens when you lose your job? What happens when you quit? What happens when you're not that title, when you don't have that title anymore? Who are you? What are you? What if you're putting your identity, I need to back up. If you're putting your identity in being a good friend, what happens when you lose your friends? Sorry, it happens. What are you then? What are you if you have no friends? What if you're putting your identity in being a good spouse? What happens if you lose your spouse? God forbid there's a death or divorce or whatever. What happens? You lose your whole identity too? I mean, what happens if, you get the point. Like, all of these things change. And if you're putting your identity in sexual orientation, what happens if you're not having sex? What happens if you're not in a relationship? Who are you? Who are you if you're not in a relationship or acting out that sexual desire? You can't put your identity in these things because they don't hold up. Any of them can be taken away or changed, and it doesn't hold up, and that's not good enough because you shouldn't have to lose your identity when your circumstances change. This shouldn't be the case. So who are you? If I ask you that question, who are you? just answer that in your head. How would you answer that? So we've stripped all the things away. You're not your job. You're not your relationships. You're not your parents' job. You're not your you're not who you're attracted to. You're not who you're in a relationship with. You're not honestly, your name can't even count in who you are because you could change your name anytime you want. That doesn't change your identity. You can't put it in how you look. Your looks change all the time. You can't put your identity in being super skinny because then you eat a brownie. Holidays are coming up. It's gonna happen. We're all gonna eat the sugar, whether you want to or not. Bet you're gonna have something. Maybe you're not. You can prove me wrong. But most of us eat the unhealthy food over the holidays. So you can't put it in being super fit. So then what? Now we're left with no identity. I have just left us with zero identity and nothing to hold on to. So what now? Now we put our identity in Jesus. And that's the key word. It's like, oh, yay, okay, put your identity in Jesus. And I think that's where a lot of the time we end it, is we say, just put your identity in Jesus and everything will be okay. And then we leave it there and everyone's like, yay. And then we all go home and we're like, okay, but what does that mean? How do we do that? What does that look like? So I want to break it down. What does it mean to have your identity rooted in Jesus, in God? And I think having our identity rooted in God, knowing who we are, is tied directly to knowing who God is. And who God is tells us exactly who we are. So I'm going to break it down, but basically our identity is that we are seen, known, and loved by God. And so I'm going to break this down one by one. So the first one is seen. You are seen by God. He sees you. You're not forgotten. You're not overlooked. God sees you. And the evidence of this in Scripture is the story of Hagar in Genesis 16. Hagar is the servant of Sarah and Abraham. And go read the story, but the quick synopsis in Genesis 16 is God promised Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a baby. They took matters into their own hands, and Sarah gave their servant Hagar to Abraham to try to have a baby, and she did. She got pregnant, and then Sarah got jealous and mistreated her, so then Hagar ran away. And then Hagar is out in the wilderness. She's pregnant. She's alone. She's in a foreign land. She's probably fairly young. I can imagine she was probably really scared. I would be. And God met her there in the wilderness, all alone. He saw her and he called her out, and they have this conversation, and it's really beautiful, and he tells her she's gonna have lots of descendants, and then he tells her to go back. But then she names God. She gives God a name after this interaction. She says, verse 13 says, she gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. It's El Roi. You are the God who sees me. And so, the God of Genesis is the same God as the New Testament and the same God as today. He is the God who sees me. He's the God who sees us. And so we can rest assured in our identity that we are seen by God. Even in our lowest moment, when you feel alone, when you feel like no one cares, no one sees you, when you feel overlooked and forgotten, God sees you. When you're on top of the world and everyone sees you, God still sees you too. He is the God who sees you. That's who he is, and so that's who you are. The second one is known. You are known by God. For the scripture for this one, I wanted to use the story of the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well, in John 4. Again, go read the story for yourself. It's great. But quick synopsis is Jesus and the disciples are traveling, and they go through Samaria, and Jesus is at this well. It's like in the highest Wow, words tonight. In the heat of the day, it's like the time when no one goes to the well. Jesus is at this well by himself. He sent the disciples to go get food, and this woman comes to the well. Jesus asks her for water, and they have this whole conversation about how if he knew her, he wouldn't be asking her for water. And then Jesus says something along the lines of, if you knew me, like, you would ask me for a drink of water. And then it's the whole, I am the living water. And then he tells her everything she's ever done. He tells her to go get her husband. She says, I don't have a husband. He goes, yeah, you're right. You have seven. You've got lots of husbands, and you're not even married to the man you're with. And he tells her everything she's ever done, all the sins, and it's the reason no one will talk to her or go to the well with her. She's been outcast because of all these things. And so Jesus tells her everything that she's ever done. He knows her deeply and intimately. He still asked her for water. He still had this conversation with her. He knows her. He knows everything about her. He still spoke to her and revealed himself as the Messiah. It was the first time he revealed himself as the Messiah, and it was to this woman. And he showed her how much he knew her. And so, because of this interaction, she runs back to the village, yelling at the top of her lungs. In verse 29, she says, come and see the man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah? He knew everything about her. He knew her deeply and intimately, and this made her realize that he really was the Messiah, that he was God. He was the one that God sent. And the same can go for us. God knows you deeply and intimately. He knows everything you've ever done. He knows everything you are doing. He knows everything you will do. And he chooses that he wants a relationship with you because he is the Messiah, because he is the one that was sent, because he is God. And so again, our identity is rooted deeply in the identity of God, of we are known by the Messiah. We are known because God knows us because he is the Messiah. Jesus knew her because he was the Messiah. The two things were deeply interwoven. And I mean, again, same God from the old, that's the same God from Genesis 16 as in John 4. And it's the same God of today. That God knows you deeply and intimately. I don't know if you're walking around thinking that no one knows you, that you're just so misunderstood. I know I feel like that sometimes, but God knows you. He understands you. He probably knows you better than you know yourself. He knows all the deep inner thoughts that you have, and he wants a relationship with you. So that is the second part of our identity is you are known by God. And then the third one, loved. For this one, I want to talk about the woman caught in adultery that's outlined in John 8. Again, read the story for yourself. I probably don't need to say that every time, but I'm going to, because you should read your Bible. It's the greatest book ever written. But in John 8, Jesus was preaching, and the leaders of the religious leaders brought this woman who was caught in the act of adultery, and brought her in front of Jesus and told him, this woman was caught in adultery. The law says to stone her. What do you say to do? They're trying to trap him, trying to trick him into saying something that they could use against him. And I mean, it says that in verse 6 through 8, it says they were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. So there's a couple things I want to break down in this, because honestly, I think this is the most important one of the three. The seen, known, and loved. I think loved is the most important. And you have to understand the first two in order to understand the the third one. You have to know that you're seen, and you have to know that you're loved, or you have to know that you are seen. You have to know that you are known by God in order to truly understand how much He deeply loves you. But anyway, so they were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. And Jesus looked at all of them with love. I think so much of the time we focus on the woman, but I think it's important to focus on all the people in the story. Is He loved all of them. He loved them enough to meet them where they were at. I mean, look at this again, verse 6 through 8. Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with His finger. So when I picture this in my head, they brought this woman who was caught in adultery, so she's probably not dressed or very scarcely dressed, in front of him. She's probably very, very shamed. So I would imagine that her eyes are downcast. I imagine her on the ground, eyes are downcast, looking at the ground, just full of shame. And Jesus gets down in the dust, in the dirt with her, and begins to write in the dust with His finger in a way that she'll see it. Because if her eyes are downcast, she's going to see what He's writing in the dirt. And it doesn't tell us what it says. I think must have been very intimate just for her. But He loved her enough to meet her right where she was at. He didn't make her look up at Him. He didn't make her stand. He met her right there in the dust. But He does the same thing for the accusers. He says they kept demanding an answer, so He stood up again. He met them where they were. They were up on their high horses. They were up, feeling all good about themselves and ready to trick Him. And Jesus stood up and met them right where they were and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. And then He stoops down again and wrote in the dust again. So He went back to meeting her. Jesus met each one of them where they were. He didn't talk up to them from the ground where He was with her. He stood up to speak to them because that's where they were. And then He stooped down again to communicate with her. And I just think that's such a beautiful illustration, beautiful physical illustration of how Jesus will meet you right where you're at, whether you are feeling prideful and up on your high horse and like you've got everything figured out, or you're down in the dirt, in the mud, and you're feeling shameful and shamed and guilty and sad and broken. Jesus will meet you right there because He loves you. He loves you enough to meet you right there. But then there's a second part to this, because He doesn't just meet them there. Look what he does with the accusers. He says, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. He took them down a peg. He humbled them. They were all the way up here. He goes, hey, let's come down here a little bit. He's like, all right, you're all feeling good about yourselves. Let me point something out to you. Like, I love you, so I'm going to tell you the truth. You've all sinned. You've all been in this place. So why are you accusing her? Basically just like, hey, take a look at yourselves too. But then He also does the same thing with her. He doesn't condone her sin, because I think that I want to make that very clear, because this passage is used very often when talking about tolerance and acceptance. And Jesus said, you without sin throw the first stone. So yes, Jesus did say that, to bring people down a peg, which is fair. We should all be thinking that when we're judging someone else. Look at yourself. Make sure, understand, have some sympathy, have some compassion. Maybe is a better word. I think compassion is a better word. Have some compassion, and don't stay there. Don't stay in your pride, because pride is a sin. But also, Jesus doesn't condone her adultery. Just because He didn't let them stone her doesn't mean he's condoning it. In verse 11, right before that, Jesus asks her, that all the accusers left, and Jesus asks her, where are the accusers, and haven't any of them condemned you? And she goes, no, not one. And Jesus says, neither do I. And then he says, go and sin no more. So he doesn't leave her there in the dirt in her shame. He communicates with her. He meets her there. But then he says, go and do better. Don't sin anymore. Go and be better. I've humbled them, but I'm going to lift you up. You can do better. I think so often we just cut off that end part because it makes us uncomfortable. But that's the important part, is God loves us enough to meet us where we're at, but he also loves us too much to leave us there. He's not going to leave you in your pride. He's not going to leave you in your shame. He's going to call you out of it. He's going to meet you there, but then he's going to say, hey, follow me out of this. You can do better. You can be humbled. You can not commit adultery, you can do better. But the Bible also says that God is love. So again, that comes right back to finding our identity in finding who we are in who God is God is love. And he loves us. He loves you so much. He's going to meet you right where you're at, whether you're in the highest of highs or lowest of lows. And he's not going to let you stay there. He's going to call you to better. Because he loves you. And so that is how you put your identity in Jesus. You understand that you are seen by God. You are not overlooked. He has not forgotten you. You understand that you are known by God. He knows every intimate little piece of you. Every thought you've ever had, every action you've ever done, every sin you've ever committed, every good thing you've ever done. He knows all of it. And he loves you deeply and intimately more than anyone ever possibly could. And that is your identity. You are a person who is seen, known, and loved by God. And that's it. And that won't change because, again, like I said, God is the same in Genesis 16 as John 4, as John 8, as today. God doesn't change. The fact that you are seen, you are known, and you are loved by God, that doesn't change. That stays the same through all time. That doesn't change when your job changes. That doesn't change when your relationship status changes. That doesn't change when your relationships change. I said that. It doesn't change, is the point. It's always the same. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And because God doesn't change, if your identity is rooted in who he is, then your identity won't change either. So then, whatever circumstances you find yourself in, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether they're you can know that your identity is secure. Who you are doesn't change because you are seen, known, and loved by the God who is characterized by seeing, knowing, and loving his people. By the God who, that's who he is. His character, who God is a God who sees, knows, and loves his people. And so you can, and God doesn't change. That is made very clear in the Bible. And so because God doesn't change, and because your identity, you are made in the image of God. So because your identity is being made in the image of God, you are seen, known, and loved by the God who created you, by the God who doesn't change, by the God who sees, knows, and loves his people. And your identity is going to be solid, no matter what life throws at you, no matter what president you vote for, no matter what senator you vote for, no matter what war is ending or starting, no matter what heinous acts someone else commits, no matter who you lose or who you gain or what you lose or what you gain, it doesn't matter. Of course it matters, but when it comes to your identity, it doesn't matter because your identity is not going to change. So yeah, that is, that was a lot. Take a minute, breathe, take it all in, and know that you are seen, known, and loved by God. And go back and read the whole, those whole things. Genesis 16, John 4, John 8. Go read all of it. Go read the context. They're beautiful stories that show the character of God and give us the clue into our identity in Jesus. Thanks again for watching. I am going to edit this real quick and get it scheduled to post tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to go to bed because it is getting late. And then, yeah. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. Oh, I forgot to do an icebreaker question. I said I was going to do those, and I did it in the first one, or no, the second one, the last one, the Charlie Kirk one. If you haven't watched that one yet, go watch it. It's good, I promise, if I do say so myself. Anyway, let's do an icebreaker question to end it. That would be a good conclusion. Okay, the icebreaker question for today is, I have to think of one. I didn't prepare for this because I forgot. Clearly, I'm not a singer. If you could be, let's stick with the identity theme. If you were a mythical creature, what mythical creature would you be? It could be anything. Mermaid. I'll give you ideas. Mermaid, centaur, satyr, faun, elf, dwarf. Mine would be a hobbit. I would be a hobbit. And I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd. Love it. I don't know if I'm nerd level. I think I'm nerd level. But not like crazy nerd level. I'm like nerd level to the point where like I like it and I'll sit and watch an extended version marathon for 12 hours. But not nerd level to where like I can speak Elvish. I tried to learn once, but I didn't succeed. So, not that level of nerd yet. But who knows? Maybe I'll get there. But I think, anyway, my mythical creature would be, I would be a hobbit. Because I like to be cozy and comfortable, and hobbits like to be cozy and comfortable, but they also have the little hint of adventurous inside of them that, like, the right people will bring out. And I definitely have that. And I want to just stay home and read my books and be cozy and have a little garden and eat bread. But unfortunately, life doesn't let me yet, so we're working on that. But yeah, if I could be any mythical creature, I would be a hobbit. So leave your mythical creature in the comments and tell me why, because they're fun to read. If you want to, if you made it to the end of this video. And go watch my last 2 videos if you haven't watched them yet. And I post a new video every Tuesday morning. So see you next week.